Hello, everyone. My name's Lorna Gold, and I'm currently serving as the chair of the board of the Global Catholic Climate Movement. A huge welcome to everybody who's here today for what hopefully will turn out as a very important moment in the history of our movement. My welcome extends to people who are joining us from right across our common home, from Australia, from Africa, from Latin America, from Europe, from the Middle East. We're literally everywhere. And we're joined here together today to really understand together what this important moment means for our movement and for the future of our common home. As we join together, I would ask you to introduce yourself in the chat. Many people have already started to do so, I can see. You can join the chat in your own language. I'd ask you also afterwards, if you enjoy the event, to share it with your family and friends. Interpretation is available in 4 different languages, in Spanish, Italian, French, and Portuguese. So if you find you've joined the wrong language, so if you don't actually understand what I'm saying, go to catholicclimatemovement.global and you'll find the button for interpretation in your own language. So I do hope you're going to enjoy this hour or so that we have together. And without further ado, I'm going to welcome Annalisa, who is the Laudato Si Generation member and representative on the board. Hi, Annalisa. You're joining us today from the Caribbean, from Trinidad and Tobago. You're so welcome.
Greetings, Lorna, and thank you for having me today, and welcome, everyone.
It's wonderful to be here together. Well, Annalisa, I'm going to ask you if you would start us off our hour together by leading our prayer.
Sure. So let us get into the moment and remember that we are in the presence of God. Today, on this special day, we also mark the feast of St. Martha, a woman of faith. So we begin as we bless ourselves in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, help us to recognize your presence in both our active and contemplative ministry, where we take urgent action against the climate and ecological crises, but we also slow down to contemplate you as creator and always in the act of creating. For you are the source of life, and we come to you with an open heart, willing to grow as we journey towards you. We give thanks for this special moment, for our movement, for the many fruits of this synodal discernment process, as we have been challenged to listen to you, to others, and to reality itself, to respond to our call to care for our common home. Grant us the grace to grow into full potential as we walk in synodality and communion with the Universal Church to fulfill our mission, our new mission. Send your Spirit to renew us as we listen to your calling and surrender the growth of our lives into your hands. Guide our discernment and our ministry, that it may reflect your goodness and holy will. Amen.
Thank you, Annalisa. That was really, really beautiful. And thanks for reminding us of the feast day today of St. Martha. I think that is quite significant for us. You mentioned a synodal process. And indeed, in GCCM, over the past nearly 2 years, we've been involved in a synodal process. So I'd like to ask our Vice Chair, Yeb Sanyo, to join me now. Yeb, you're so welcome. You're joining us from the Philippines. Yeb, A synodal process, what does that mean for people who haven't been involved in this process in the same way that we have lived and breathed it over the past 2 years?
Hello, Lorna, and hello to all of our friends, sisters, and brothers who are joining us today. Yes, the synodal process, if I may put it in the simplest terms from my understanding and coming from how my heart understands this process, synodality refers to the principle of a movement reaching out to as many people as possible, reaching out and making all of our voices heard, and speaking in different languages but having one voice, and also celebrating our diversity but also our unity. This is what the synodal process has been about, and later on we will get more details around that, on how this process has gone through, how we've gone through this process in the past few months. But this was not just a few months of a process in terms of the journey we've had. This has been a collective journey of people and communities who believe in the mission that has been that has been brought to us through the Global Catholic Climate Movement. And today we're celebrating a really special moment as we journey forward with a very wonderful surprise for today. So that is how this process has been, Lorna, and all of us are filled with joy and filled with hope and inspiration as we gather today in this momentous occasion.
Thanks, Jeb. So you said it's quite a momentous moment, because we've reviewed over the past 2 years our mission, our vision, our identity, and even our name. I think you were there right at the start when the original name was chosen or emerged. But it's created a few issues down the past few years, hasn't it? Has that been your experience?
I think so. Yes, I think I think all of us have witnessed in one way or another the evolution of the movement. And you're right. Sometimes it's confusion around the names, and since we are a very diverse family, we also speak in different languages, and sometimes GCCM has been very difficult to pronounce in many different languages, even in my own native language. And
Yeah.
you also mentioned the origins of the movement, and it fills me with so much pride, Lorna, that the roots of this movement has been very much linked to the Philippines at the time when Pope Francis also visited the Philippines, and of course in particular my family's hometown in Tacloban, which was ravaged by Super Typhoon Haiyan.
Absolutely, we can't forget that, and the link that's there right from the start between Typhoon Haiyan, Laudato Si, and then the birth of GCCM, and how that has been taken up by so many people in the Philippines, people in the Catholic Church, and also joined by many brothers and sisters beyond who want to work together to care for our common home. Thank you, Jeb. I'm now going to continue this conversation about the roots of GCCM, because I imagine that many people on this call today were not there at the very start. In fact, I wasn't there at the very start. I was already involved in climate action, but I only became aware of this new movement in the church several months after the original people had started to gather and to start to put things into action. So I'm now joined by a number of different people, if they could join me in the room. So that's Dr. Pablo Kazan, Father John Leyden, Pablo Kaziani, Father John Leyden, Marianne Comfort, and Brother Ben Ayodi. You're so welcome. So you all were there at the very start of this tiny seed. We saw a seed in Annalisa's presentation, the germ of a seed of something that was about to emerge. So I'm going to ask you about what it was like right at the beginning. Pablo, you're a climate scientist. You're based in Buenos Aires. And you're also a person of faith as well as being a climate scientist. What were your feelings when the first kind of murmurings of this new movement emerged in 2015?
Well, it was very special for two reasons. I had been working under the request of Cardinal Bergoglio for the previous 7 years on climate research within the Catholic University of Argentina. And actually, even before most of you learned about, Ben and Marianne, about the possibility of this, we were visited in the austral spring of 2014 by a very angry Tomás Insúa, who was really mad because there was no Catholic distinct participation in the climate change movements. So we met at the time. I was serving in the lay department of the Argentine Conference of Bishops, and we were organizing with a very close friend of mine, Dr. Justo Carvajales, the idea of Catholic professional networks, which would provide services to the community. So we explained these ideas to Tomás, the idea of a network which brings people together to do a joint effort from different aspects, from different sectors of society. And that's how we kind of set up a seed for Tomás to think about. And then he called us back early in 2015. So that's the prehistory of GCCM, if you want.
That's wonderful. And Marianne, you were already involved from the United States at that time. You work with the Sisters of Mercy. So what was your involvement at that very early stage of the birth of GCCM?
Yes, so I'm the Justice Coordinator for the Sisters of Mercy of the Americas for Earth and a few other issues as well. So I was already in coalitions and doing advocacy around climate change and other environmental issues. And I have to say, I was really surprised to be invited to that initial meeting in Rome in May 2015. And I wasn't quite sure why I was there. There were, there was scientists, there were people who headed prestigious organizations, really seasoned organizers. But I remember feeling like very excited to be amongst all these people that really had seen the possibilities for mobilizing and organizing Catholics around the world for climate action. And I was really intrigued as I learned more and more about this upcoming encyclical on the environment, which is what we were calling it at the time, that was due within weeks. And at the time, we also were looking forward to the international climate talks in Paris later that year. So I remember at least I had a very short horizon and had no sense of what that was all going to lead to. But it was a very exciting moment just to be in these conversations about what the possibilities could be if we could just harness the power of Catholics around the world to address this climate crisis.
In fact, I think it's many people who start movements within the church, or many of the works you could say that the Holy Spirit starts. It's not that anybody set out to plan to start a movement. I think probably Tomás would be the first to say we thought he would probably be back doing his day job by the end of the year after the COP was over. And here we are 6 years later, celebrating today this really vast global family that's emerged over the past 6 years. Ben, I want to bring you into the conversation. Do you cast your mind back to 2015? Do you think that GCCM's birth, and I guess more importantly, perhaps Laudato Si itself, had a bearing on the outcome of the climate negotiations that year? I know it's a very hard question. What do you think?
Sure, and I remember I met Tomás after the climate march in New York, and we were saying we march together as Catholics. Now, what do we do after this? And we were thinking of what the big moment of the COP21 in Paris, and we were to go there as Franciscans. Being a Franciscan working for justice and peace, we were planning to go to Paris for the big, conference on climate, and we decided, well, Thomas came and was saying, you know, this Laudato Si, the document that is about to release, will be based very much on the Franciscan values and Franciscan spirituality, and Laudato Si, praise be, being a word from St. Francis of Assisi. So we decided, let's collect signatures. And we collected so many signatures, literally going to the piazzas in Rome and other places, collecting signatures. And we carried them, and Jeb was there. We had a pilgrimage right from Rome to Paris, and we presented our signatures there. And one thing that was very unique, we sat in front of the COP in a circle, and we were praying together in the cold season during November, you can imagine. And our signatures, we presented there, a bunch of them, to the president of France during that time. And they were presented at the COP. And I think that changed, because then we had a moral voice being introduced to a very politicized and scientific way of looking at these things. Now we had a moral voice from the Pope. And I think it had an effect, and it still continues having an effect. Thank you.
Thanks. And I think, if I recall, I was around at the COP that year. And one of the things that was very striking was this petition and the weight of that petition, which had several million signatories.
Right.
And I think what was really distinctive for me, and it's the style of GCCM now, is that it was a partnership. It was about collaboration. And I was working with the Irish Catholic Development Organisation, TROCRA, which is a member of GCCM. And we had taken up this campaign, and all together with SIDSI, with all the Caritas, we were working collaboratively in order to present this jointly to the COP that year in Paris. So it was a wonderful testament, and we'll come on to talk about later on what we could do now for the COP, because we have another COP, we know, in a few months' time, and Pope Francis has taken the unprecedented step of saying he is going. So we'll come back to that in a little while. So certainly we feel that our movement made a difference back then. And maybe how has the movement evolved from where you're sitting? In the past few years, the COP in 2015 finished, life went back to normal. Is that right? Did you all just go back to your day jobs and forget about Catholic climate action? Did you, or has something changed? How's your involvement in the movement now? Any of you, anybody can take that question.
Well, I've been always involved, especially as a scientist and as a university professor, speaking on the media and trying to provide the outlook from both science and from the Catholic faith, even in non-Catholic media, which are most. And I think this has an impact. We have to teach first so that people can act. We have to empower people so that they can act. And the empowerment has to be both through faith and through knowledge if we want to solve the environmental crisis and the social crisis that we're facing today, the global change crisis, a single word.
Thanks, Pablo. Do one of the others want to give a final word on that?
Yes, I think also I think with the coming in of the Global Catholic Climate Movement, now the name is going to change, we kind of put our boots on the ground, and the movement has been able to mobilize all over the world with our different initiatives, and not just only advocating for climate justice and climate action, but also for eco-spirituality. So bringing our Catholic faith on the ground and mobilizing people both through the Laudato Si animators training, the Laudato Si circles, building chapters, having spiritual retreats, and even doing advocacy at the grassroots level. So I think that has been seen from advocating against the pipeline in Uganda, ECOP, and other initiatives that we've been able to do.
Thanks, Ben. I'm going to move on now because we've got a lot to get through, but thank you so much for letting us delve a little bit into the history of GCCM. It's been so great talking to you. I'm now going to ask Thomas to join me because he's going to talk us through the synodal process that we've been through over the past 2 years. Are you there, Thomas? There's Thomas. He's on silent, or maybe. So we're going to look at the process, the overview of the synodal process. I believe it's a PowerPoint that we're going to watch. There's Thomas. Thomas is back. Hi, Thomas. You're on mute. I think that's become the. Oh, sorry, we can't hear each other.
Hello, can you hear me there?
I can hear you well. I believe you're.
Can you hear me there? Sorry, I'm having some technical issues. Hopefully this works. Great. Well, warm greetings from Rome, everybody, dear brothers and sisters. Great joy to be with you all. And yeah, the idea is just to give a very quick overview of this synodal process that we have been speaking about, just to lay out what happened during the last roughly 2 years of discernment. So I'll share some slides very quickly. Give me 1 second that I pull it up. Here it is. So hopefully this works. Great. So the process so far, it's been a pretty long process. And basically the big question has been, who are we? That was the big question. And it all was triggered by the 5th anniversary of the movement in early 2020. So there were a few questions that we discerned altogether. The first one was on our identity and who are our members. Then we discerned also our structures, how should the movement be structured. We discerned also on our values, our mission statement, and our name, ultimately. That was kind of the last, after all the other discernment questions, was getting to the name. There were lots of participants in the process, mainly the 3 international bodies, the board, the Global Membership Council, and the Secretariat were the main bodies, let's say, participating throughout the process. And then there was, especially for the mission and the name, there were additional consultations of the larger membership. I should mention that the whole process has been very prayerful. I think prayerful discernment, trying to seek the guidance of the Holy Spirit for what the movement is meant to do, has been the unifying thread throughout the process. And very quickly, I'll share some of the key outcomes of what emerged from these conversations, these prayerful conversations we had all together. First, we came up with a new identity statement that aims to crystallize the identity and the membership. There was a big question. We affirmed this understanding that the movement on one side has member organizations and on the other hand has grassroots members, but all coexisting in this wonderful movement. So, and always seeking for unity and diversity. I think that was a key takeaway from the identity conversations. In other words, we're a hybrid movement with these 2 major branches, right? The member organizations and the grassroots. Then we had quite a lot of conversation on our structures as well. I will not get into the details, but all these materials will be shared later and will be available on the website. But kind of looking at how we structure the movement, and for example, an example of one of the changes was the Global Membership Council that, besides changing its name, it also added some additional membership groups that were missing. So quite a lot of thinking of how do we structure the movement. Then there was discernment about our mission. What are we meant to do? What is our goal? And we came up with this nice, short and concise statement that our mission is to inspire and mobilize the Catholic community to care for our common home and achieve climate and ecological justice, which I think there's a few things that emerge from this mission statement. This talk about inspiration refers to our spirituality efforts towards an ecological conversion. We affirm this wider care for a common home approach that allows also via subsidiarity for members to work on their local issues beyond climate, in other words, outside of what our name indicated. And also we still mentioned climate and ecological justice as important priorities, kind of key global issues that bring us together and we work in a coordinated way. And last but not least, we had the conversation, the discernment about the name. Here's a nice quote from our good friend Amy Willem Echeverria, one of the GCCM co-founders from the Columbans, who said, similar to the name choice that occurs in the sacrament of confirmation, we're now in a confirmation moment. So we discern very prayerfully in this. We've now grown up, let's say, and we're in this moment in which we're more mature and we can make this choice of our name that we want to guide our efforts. And also this was motivated, already Yev mentioned this, there were several problems with the GCCM name, too long, not practical across languages, sounded too restrictive, etc. So lots of reasons that prompted us to revisit this name, GCCM. And there's so many examples of so many ways that people have mispronounced our name, including family members of ours for many years. It's such a long and hard name. So anyways, that led to this process. It was a relatively long process, close to 2 years in total, that had several rounds in which the members were engaged. Pretty sizable. We had nearly 600 members in the first round, and then we had discernment dialogues in which we had these conversations at the regional level, over 100 members there, and then we had with international bodies about 30 members having the final discernments. And after that, after arriving to the name, having additional consultations with key church partners, and ultimately with Pope Francis himself. So anyways, I'll stop here. We'll hear more from other participants, but overall there was a very beautiful sense of being in this together and being, truly in a synodal format of doing it together, walking together. So I'll stop here and back to you, Lorena.
Thanks, Thomas, and thanks for taking us through that process, because I think it's really important that all of us who are part of this movement understand that this wasn't all picked out the sky. Nobody just kind of went, oh, we'll have that name. And neither did it emerge from a brand expert consultation, because that could have been quite easy to do. Let's kind of get the brand experts in to tell us what we should call ourselves. I was actually very surprised by it, I have to say. It was this idea of synodal process, which I have to say is very timely, because Pope Francis this year is calling us into this universal synod about synods. So we're really on the ball in terms of having gone through what I would say is quite an exemplary process of synodality, allowing time for people to grasp the issues and to understand what's at stake and everything around our movement. So now we've come to the big moment, the big unveiling of the new name. And if I had drums, I would be drumming a little beat now to allow the drum roll to for you to finally, I know many of you have been waiting, finally know what the new name is that emerged through this long process and was confirmed to us on a very special day by Pope Francis himself. So we're now going to watch a short video in which the name will be revealed. gosh, I hope that you enjoyed that. It was very dramatic. I think what really strikes me as the Laudato Si movement is that it's the same in every language, Laudato Si. So here we are, we're now Laudato Si movement. And I hope we can all celebrate together this big moment in our movement. And I want to now show you just a little bit about how we got there, not going over the whole thing of that Thomas just went through, but what's in a name? Why are we now the Laudato Si movement? So this statement, we've issued a formal statement now, which is downloadable from laudatosimovement.org website, and I assume from the Global Catholic Climate Movement website as well. So if you go on to the next slide. If the slides are going to move. So what we want, this is the statement that you can all download, and there's no need to read it all now. It'll be posted after the event and explains how we got here, and it's undersigned by the board, the Global Membership Council, and the Secretariat. So that's the three main governing bodies of the Laudato Si movement. And as we've already said, and Thomas said so well, this has been an 18-month process of prayerful discernment in order to try to listen together and understand what the Spirit is calling us to. And in the process, we've renewed our vocation to be protectors of God's handiwork, as Laudato Si calls us to. We know that Laudato Si inspired the foundation of this movement, and it continues to be the cornerstone of everything that we do, from the animators, Laudato Si Week, the circles. It's always been deep in our hearts. So it's natural for us now to be the Laudato Si movement. It reflects our broader care for our common home, and particularly the ecological conversion work that has become increasingly the core of many of the things that we do. And it's more than an encyclical. Ultimately, it's about a Franciscan worldview, really returning to St. Francis and that vision of communion with all creation, which has given birth to so much and so many families of so many spiritualities and charisms and spiritualities in the church. We're mindful also of our continued evolution. So obviously, Laudato Si is not the sum total of the magisterium of the church. There is everything that went before and everything that has already and will come afterwards. But we feel very strongly that as a moment in time, as a specific vocation, just as we're all called to live the whole gospel, often people and movements are called to a specific word of the gospel, a specific focus, and ours is rooted in Laudato Si and that call to care together for our common home. And of course, we acknowledge and join forces with all the work that's happening around Laudato Si, both inside and outside the Laudato Si movement. And in fact, we're very conscious in changing our name to Laudato Si movement that we can never, ever, as a movement, fully own or fully express all the work that's happening on Laudato Si, and neither would we ever want to do that. We want to join forces and to work collaboratively across all the different groups and organisations working on Laudato Si. The final stage of our process involved consultations with the Franciscans and with Pope Francis himself. And in fact, at the very end of this process, we as a board agreed that we couldn't change our name by ourselves. It wasn't ours to do, really. We wanted to ask Pope Francis how he felt and to understand if he felt that this was that we were expressed in this name change, Laudato Si movement. So to do that, we sent him a booklet, a photo book of all of you. And to show him this is who we are, this is what we do, and this is who we want to be, an expression of our vision. And we were so thrilled. I can't tell you how thrilled we were when on Pentecost, the eve of Pentecost, the Pope sent us back this message confirming the new name that we had asked for. So he wrote, to the Laudato Si movement, so that's all of us, thank you for the mission of promoting integral ecology, for the help you give to the Church throughout the world. Happy Laudato Si Week, Fraternally Francisco. So here we are. Pope Francis confirmed our name on Pentecost. And that to me is also a bit of a sign of where we need to go with our new name. The statement and everything you need if you want to promote this locally, and please do within your own communities, it's everything you need is on the website, laudatosimovement.org, which is live now. And please don't go yet because we've still got more to come. But afterwards, you can log on there and you can download everything you'll need. So now, after that, we need to go to a very good friend of the Laudato Si movement, right from the very start, who has a special message for us. And that's Cardinal Michael Czerny, who's the Undersecretary of the Vatican Migrants and Refugee Section. So he sent us a very beautiful greeting.
The Laudato Si movement, first of all, is a movement, as was GCCM. And the word movement is very important to get across the idea that we are not trying to build something stable, we're trying to get going, we're trying to move, we're trying to get somewhere, we're trying to improve. To tell you the truth, we're trying to survive as a human family and as a planetary home. So movement is very important. But the Laudato Si movement, or even its predecessor, didn't just start yesterday. It was born at Vatican II, and it represents not just Laudato Si, but the whole movement, again, movement of the teaching of Pope Francis, Evangelii Gaudium, Laudato Si, Querida Amazonia, and Fratelli Tutti. And I really hope and pray that all the members and participants and colleagues of the Laudato Si movement will enrich themselves more and more with the full range of Pope Francis's teaching rooted in Vatican II. And then I'm also, and maybe most happy, that this change has a very deep meaning. GCCM used to have a kind of corporate name. It told you in, let's say, kind of cool words, what it is institutionally, what it is trying to do institutionally. But as it has matured, its name has matured very profoundly, because its name now is not a corporate label, it is a prayer. And for the Laudato Si movement to name itself as a prayer is to tell the truth that we are not going to be able to implement the encyclical Laudato Si. We're not going to be able to care for our common home unless we do it together, as Fratelli Tutti teaches us, but also as whole persons, not only environmental persons, but also spiritual persons. So when we name the movement now, every time we name it, we're saying a prayer. Laudato Si. Praise be the Creator. Praise be the Creator. May the Creator help us to be worthy, responsible, and caring creatures. And that great prayer is the one that I would like to join you in offering on this most happy occasion. Laudato Si movement. Laudato Si. Thank you.
I don't know about you, but our name is not a corporate movement, but a prayer. It's not a corporate badge. Our name has become a prayer. So every time we say our name now, we're saying a prayer. So I'd like to invite now some of the different members of Laudato Si. So Luca Fiorani from the Focolare movement, Mabel Zuniga, Stephen Makaguti, Gutu, and Agnes Richard. And apologies if I mispronounced your names. I'm terrible with pronouncing names. But you're so welcome. So
Thanks.
in the next 5 minutes, I just want to get your reaction. And I'll maybe start with you, Stephen. What's your reaction to this change of name? What does it mean to you?
The name to me is amazing because having been a Laudato Si member, GCCM member for the last 2 years, people have been asking, why is it only Catholic, global Catholic climate movement? It sounds like repetition. Some people too had a problem with pronunciation of the name, but since this new name has come, it has directly appearing on Laudato Si because the encyclical is Laudato Si. And the new name also, Laudato Si movement, making it easy and amazing. And I think people are going to like it.
Thanks, Stephen. Mabel, what about you?
Yes, I'm really happy and I think it's an amazing change. I want to briefly share with you that here in Panama, we already use the Laudato Si movement of Panama. We were founded, yes, we were founded thanks to the World Youth Day that was held in 2019. So the people who founded this movement here in Panama wanted to set a reminder of how our mission is always to remember that everything is connected and to help our church to move forward on putting the most vulnerable communities and people at the center. So I think that this is an amazing change that the GCCM is doing. I think it's a door opening for all of us to involve everyone in the protection and care of our common home and to keep pushing forward integral ecology, climate justice, and social justice for everyone. So remember that we are all brothers and sisters living in this amazing world.
Thank you, Mabel. That's really beautiful. And also to remind us that our calling is to care for our brothers and sisters in our common home. Luca Fiorani, lovely to see you.
Hello, everybody.
Reaction here.
Well, I think that the huge challenge of having a healthy planet needs dialogue with other Christians, other religions, and also unbelievers. The new name could help us reaching the maximum number of people because Laudato Si encyclical is accepted almost by everybody in our present world. Moreover, the climate is not the only illness of our planet from the environmental point of view, marine plastic, air pollution, and so on. You know better than me. And probably more important, we have to listen to the cry of the poor and the cry of the earth. So not only environment, but a full conversion to ecological, integral ecology. In conclusion, I think this new name helps us to be more inclusive from many points of view, without, this is very important, losing our specificity.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Luca, and thanks to you all. I'm going to move on now because we have other messages to listen to from different people who wanted to greet the Laudato Si movement today. So we have a message now from Father Massimo Fusarelli from the Friars General of the Franciscan Order. So we'll listen to his message.
Dear friends of the Laudato Si movement, fraternal peace and good greetings for you all. In occasion of the name change of your movement, for a renewed commitment in everything that this cause involves, which is in our hearts, that it's not only a cause, but it is really for us a new guideline as Christians, particularly, also the reading of the Gospel, and also as Franciscans because of our charisma. So good service for our common home, and good service for the training of many Laudato Si animators, for supporting a new culture regarding the ongoing climate crisis, and above all, I wish you enthusiasm, passion, and closeness to the reality of our common home. Today, so wounded on one side, and on the other side, really ask us for our presence and commitment, and if you allow me, joy in doing all of this. So in the name of Saint Francis, a greeting to you and good work. Peace and good.
Wow, that was really beautiful. I think what strikes me there is the word joy. And there's a phrase in Laudato Si that says that the work that we do should never take away the joy that we experience. And Laudato Si is joy, it's pure joy. I'm going to say thank you to our panelists here and move on to another two greetings that we have. Our next one is from Cristiana Figueres, who many of you, if you were around in 2015, will remember was the UN head who was responsible for delivering the Paris Agreement. And she's been a dear friend of GCCM and now the Laudato Si movement, and wanted to send us this greeting.
The new name of this important worldwide movement denotes our growing awareness of the interconnectivity of all elements of God's creation and our responsibility to care for that common home in an integrated manner with love, respect, humility, and above all, solidarity. Solidarity with those who are most vulnerable today and with those who will follow us tomorrow.
That was beautiful. And we have another reading that we want to move straight to. And that's from another really good friend of GCCM, Bill McKibben, the campaigner and author.
What great news about a new name for one of the most effective groups in the whole world. Look, I'm a writer, so it stands to reason that I'd like anything named for something that someone's written. But in this case, Laudato Si is probably the most important document yet of this millennium. It's the most remarkable critique of modernity with a special emphasis on what the climate crisis is doing to the poorest and most vulnerable people on Earth. And there is no way at this point in the 21st century to engage in a serious Christian witness that does not take first and foremost this destruction of God's creation and God's people at its very heart. It's a powerful, powerful moment that this most accomplished of organizations is moving to a new level with a whole new moral purpose undergirding its spectacular work.
Wow, that was amazing. I think that Bill just really reminds us, he said this right after Laudato Si was written, that he regards it as the most important document written in the 21st century. And now we have our movement named after this. So the weight of responsibility sits on our shoulders because we want to make it continue to make it a lived reality. And Cristiana Figueres, who has been such a good friend, I think reminded me there of just how important it is to have this integrated approach and how Laudato Si can help us to have this 360 degrees integrated vision of how we need to act to tackle the various crises that we're in today. We have a couple more videos actually to show you because so many people wanted to ask us or wanted to be involved in this event today. So there's a video now from Bishop Jose Colin Bagaforo from the Philippines, who has been a big supporter of the Laudato Si movement. So we'll listen to his short greeting.
Hello, good morning. I am Bishop Jose Colin Bagaforo of the Diocese of Kidapawan and Chairman of Caritas Philippines. I would like to congratulate you for your new name, Laudato Si Movement. Mabuhay.
How lovely. And our final greeting. Oh, Agnes, you've managed to join us. You may have had technical issues.
Yes, I did. I'm so sorry.
Before we move to our final greeting, I might ask you, Agnes, I don't know if you caught what the new name was because you had technical problems. Did you catch the new name?
Yes, I did, and I'm thrilled about it. I'm really happy to now be the Laudato Si movement. But I'm also extremely happy about why and how this came about. Formerly, the Global Catholic Climate Movement took a very careful approach, a synodal approach, as we are being led by Pope Francis to do, in consulting so many people on what we would like to be named. It was absolutely unanimous that Laudato Si movement should be what we become. It is how we've evolved to this point. It puts this encyclical right at the center, and it reflects all of our willingness to keep talking to each other, to building a movement that supports each of us in the work that we're doing in our own place, and with a common goal to take care of our common home. Laudato Si movement expresses that perfectly. So thank you very much for giving me a chance to welcome and to thank all of you, and to thank the movement as a whole for the work that we're doing.
Thanks, Agnes. Thank you so much. And thank you for all the work that you do in Canada to protect our common home. Our final video message is from someone who's very, very close to all of us and whom we work with very, very closely. And that's Father Josh, who is based in the Vatican and is the coordinator of in the Dicastery for Integral Human Development for care of creation and integral ecology. So a video greeting from Father.
Hearty congratulations from the ecology sector of the Vatican Dicastery for promoting integral human development to the entire GCCM family as you become the Laudato Si movement today. What a beautiful name, Laudato Si movement, which reveals your identity, what you are, and your vocation, what you should be. And we only pray that you may be inspired by the vision of Laudato Si to take care of our common home, to listen to the cry of the earth and of the poor, inflamed by that sense of justice, but also by the theology and spirituality of this gospel of creation, to build together a new economic, political order of solidarity and compassion. And for all this, we need to be a movement of people, of communities, and inspired, energized by the dunamis, the Spirit, the Holy Spirit of God. So we thank you, we congratulate you, and we also thank the divine providence that in this era of planetary emergency, God has raised up the Laudato Si movement. May you continue to flourish. Thank you.
That was so lovely to hear from Father Josh, who is such a support and works very closely with us in our various partnerships with the Dicastery for Integral Human Development. We're coming close to the end of our hour together. We have a couple of things we still want to do. So as we start to reflect on our new name, we're going to have some music from Sandesh, who is in India. And as Sandesh is playing, I would invite you to prayerfully think about what this means to you and reflect your thoughts on Menti to be shared with everybody.
How much longer will we hear the cries? The drowning voice of the people drift through the skies. We all live as though we have another place to go. Living like we do, it's It's up to me, I need you know. Listen to the wind, it's talking. Listen to the silence that speaks. Listen to your heart, it knows that this is what our future needs. Care for her like you care for me. Give back some love, return unto glory. Another word, we're not done. Praise be to the Lord of creation. Half of the trees have fallen in a lifetime. Can you hear them cry? Down under, lit up in a wildfire. But machines still cut and drive the life out of us. So hold my hand, speak up and do your part. Listen to the wind, it's talking. Listen to the silence it speaks. Listen to your heart, it knows that this is what our future needs. Care for her like you care for me. Give back some love, return unto glory. Another world, we're not done. Praise be to the Lord of creation. Love our Mother Earth, we don't inherit her from our ancestors. Just keep loving because we borrow from our children. Listen to the wind, it's talking. Listen to the silence it speaks. Listen to your heart, it knows that this is what our future needs. Care for her like you care for me. Give back some love, return unto glory. And Mother Earth, we're not done. Praise be to the Lord of creation.
I think we have to give him a round of applause wherever you are. That was an amazing song. Wow, this is what our future needs. I think we can all agree with that. I'm going to welcome Yeb back. We are running slightly over, but we'll be finished in 5 minutes. But I think if you can stay on, I think this final section, the final 5 minutes, is very important. So we've got a new name now, Yeb. It's a beautiful name. It's a prayer. It reminds us really of what the world needs right now. And the challenge ahead is huge. I mean, every day now we're seeing climate emergencies happening all over the world. And COP is just around the corner. over to you. What do we need to do? Some words of inspiration, Yeb, to set us on our way for the coming months ahead as we try to live into this new name.
Thank you again, Lorna, and thanks to all of you, dear friends, for being with us today. It's important that we hold on to that music that we just heard, that we dance to, and hold that in our hearts, hold that in our minds, keep that as a part of the tune that would drive us forward, that would keep us going, because we do need that inspiration. Because as we gather today to celebrate this occasion for the Laudato Si movement, it is not without a sobering reminder of for all of us that the climate crisis persists, despite the slowdown that the coronavirus pandemic has caused. The climate crisis continues to wreak havoc on people's lives. In fact, 2020 has become the warmest year on record, tying with the year 2016, and it's affecting more people more than ever. So we offer our thoughts and our prayers and stand in solidarity with the people affected around the world. You know, at the same time, we proclaim the new name of our movement. Climate scientists are actually currently convened, and over 200 of the world's leading climate scientists from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change are convened virtually. And this might be referred to as a coincidence, but I don't think it's a coincidence. And they are meeting to finalize the 6th assessment report, or what we call as the AR6, a very important report that explains in detail how this problem is continuing to become bigger, how the Earth's climate has already changed, and what we can expect for the rest of this century. Now, the urgency of the crisis and the imperative to address it has never been clearer. And today, it is much, much clearer into focus. Our gathering today, as well as the 2-week virtual meeting of the IPCC scientists, actually is happening at the same time when a dramatic manifestation of deadly climate-driven disasters are unfolding around the world, from the flash floods in Europe, in Asia, North America, to intense wildfires in Siberia and in the United States, to the widespread and intense heat waves and droughts that threaten to upend food supplies and cause famine in Madagascar and much of Africa, in the Middle East, and many other places around the world. We are experiencing all of these events all at the same time. And just to recall what Pope Francis wrote in Laudato Si, in Laudato Si 61, he said, "Our common home is falling into serious disrepair." And as such, this requires us in this movement to become more focused, to have that collective focus, to double down our efforts to pursue the mission we have solemnly embraced. And in the face of the climate emergency, a lot of people ask us, and this is where I go back to the music we just heard, people ask us why we can still win, why we can still wake up in the morning. After all, the same reasons that make us lose sleep at night should be the same reasons that help us get out of the bed in the morning. And not just for the Laudato Si movement, but collectively across the world, our mission is to inspire and to spread hope. Hope is taking that first step, even if we don't see the rest of the road. Hope is about leaving the port and hoisting our sails, even if we're uncertain of the tough seas ahead. And hope is changing your name and having faith that the movement will be stronger than ever. And hope is what we experience when we are gathered like we are today, embracing our renewed purpose. In the Laudato Si movement, my dear friends, we put people and communities at the heart of our work, because that is the message that is central to the Laudato Si, the encyclical, and strengthening and amplifying and working with those who share our hope and belief that we can inspire and mobilize our community, the Catholic community, and beyond, to care for our common home and achieve climate and ecological justice. What is also abundantly clear for us today, as we embrace this new name, is that the mission before us is larger than all of us, and bigger than we imagined. And likewise, we realized that this movement is beyond the borders we have somehow drawn into the sand before, and that we have to reach out to as many people, faith communities, and many more, because we know that we cannot do it alone. Ultimately, this crisis is going to make a better world. That's my belief, and I hope you believe in that too, because it is the same crisis that gave birth to the Laudato Si, the message from Pope Francis, and Laudato Si, the movement. This crisis, through the intersection of our movement with others, guided by the Spirit, will unleash the creativity, innovation, empathy, and caring that is required to transform the world and avert this crisis. In our work, we also talk a lot about tipping points. And ultimately, the work of the Laudato Si movement is about ensuring that the most important tipping point that we want to avoid, which is losing our ability to care as human beings, is prevented. And in closing, I again borrow words from Laudato Si when the Pope says an integral ecology is also made up of simple daily gestures which break with the logic of violence, exploitation, and selfishness. This affirms the idea that we often hear in this movement, that all it takes is one good person to restore hope, that our daily commitment is essential to our longer journey. Finally, I take inspiration from what Pope Francis has said also during the Laudato Si conference in 2018 for the 3rd anniversary of the encyclical, and this struck me so strongly because he said, "Yet human beings, while capable of the worst, are also capable of rising above themselves, choosing again what is good, and making a new start." So as we kind of make a new start today, let Pope Francis in the same conference said, "Please continue to work for the radical change which present circumstances require. We are united by faith, and that is our common aspiration, to heed the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor." This movement has journeyed through a lot of changes, and in the midst of all that, we continue to stand together, united to care for creation, guided by the Spirit. And we welcome with joy this action of the Spirit and celebrate this moment and this movement, a movement that is the same movement, but with fewer words, but more Laudato Si. Thank you very much, and God bless all of you.
Thank you, Yeb. Amen to all of that. That was so beautiful. And perhaps each of us today, in being confirmed, in a sense, in this new name, can take a moment now to just go into our hearts and to recommit ourselves. I know, listening to everybody today and reading all the comments, I have a deep sense of desire to recommit myself in my daily life, as Yeb just said, in those little actions and in the big actions that sometimes we're called to take to protect our common home and to act for justice for our fellow brothers and sisters. So we need to roll up our sleeves, and we know there's many opportunities to do that. And if you go on to the new website, laudatosimovement.org, it's much easier than the old one, I have to say, you'll find all the ways that you can get involved. And of course, Season of Creation is coming up. So you can log on to seasonofcreation.org to find out it's not too late to organize something for Season of Creation. It's in September. So you can get thinking about that. It would be amazing ahead of the COP also to help to promote the Healthy Planet, Healthy People petition, and engage many, many other people. This petition is driven by the Laudato Si movement, but as we've said many times today, Laudato Si is for everyone. It's not just for Catholics. So this petition can go to everybody to send a powerful, powerful message to the COP at the end of the year. So we've come to the end. We're a little bit over, but that was always going to happen. And we want to finish up with another song from one of our amazing Laudato Si animators. I've already heard him play, but I'll now turn to Luca Tirana, who's going to end, and he's live. He's really brave. He's going to sing live for you all. Hi, Luca. Ciao.
Thank you. Thank you. Ciao. Ciao a tutti. Hello, everybody.
See you. So tell us the song you're going to sing, and then you're going to sing out this amazing movement.
Okay. I hope you enjoy it.
Laudato si, mi Signore, con tutte le tue creature. Laudato si, mi Signore, con tutte le tue creature. Laudato si, mi Signore, con tutte le tue creature. Laudato si, mi Signore, con tutte le tue creature. Laudato si, mi Signore, con tutte le tue creature.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Luca. Goodbye.
Thank you, Lorna.
See you all
Goodbye.
again. Laudato si.
Laudato si.
Bye.